Good morning, this is Miss Marcella, and I just want to share with you today's main point. It is knowing Jesus changes the way we see people. And what that means is when we look around to people in the grocery store, or maybe we're just hanging out with our neighbors and we see people out on the street, wherever you're at the park, whenever we see other people, we don't see them for their differences or what makes them or sets them apart, but we see them all as children of God, and Jesus loves every single one of them. That's one of the reasons why he went to the cross and died for us, because he loved us all the same way in such a deep, powerful way. So we're going to learn more about what that looks like in today's Bible story. Bye!
Hey Kid Live! Today I get to share a Bible story from the book of Acts chapter 10. And in this story, we are going to talk about a man named Peter. And to set the scene, during this time, the early church was growing quickly, and Peter would travel from town to town sharing the good news of Jesus. And he would share this news, and there was even one town named Joppa where he raised a dead woman to life through the power of God's Spirit. And there were many people that became believers in this town. And because of that, he decided to stay there a while. And he stayed at the house of a man named Simon who worked with leather, and he lived by the sea. Meanwhile, we're going to introduce this new character. His name was Cornelius, and he was a Roman commander, and he lived in the town of Caesarea. And he was not Jewish like Peter was, but he and his family worshiped God, and they gave generously to the people in need. And often Cornelius would pray, and one day when he was praying, God sent an angel to him in a vision. And in this vision, this is what the angel told him. He said, "Now send men to Joppa and bring one Simon, who is called Peter. He is lodging with one Simon, a leather worker whose house is by the sea." So Cornelius obeys, and he sends 2 servants and 1 soldier to go find Peter in Joppa. And the next day, maybe around noon, Peter goes up to the roof of this house to pray. And during this time, he gets a little hungry. And he's thinking about food and what he could eat. But he's praying, and they're preparing a meal for him. And when he starts praying, guys, it gets wild. He has this crazy vision. I don't know if you guys are ready for this, but this is what the vision was. It says, he saw the heavens open and something like a great sheet coming down by its 4 corners upon the earth. In it were all kinds of animals and reptiles and birds of the air. That is crazy. I can't even imagine what that would look like. It says, "Rise." There came a voice to him, and it says, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." But Peter said, "By no means, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean." And the voice came to him again a second time. "But what God has made clean, do not call common." This happened 3 times, and the sheet, was taken up at once to heaven. So this is what you should know. During this time, there were certain animals that the Jews could not eat. They were called unclean according to God in the Old Testament. So this confused Peter a little bit. He didn't quite understand what this vision meant or what God was trying to tell him. While this is happening, the men that Cornelius sent came to the house. They finally arrived, and they were asking for Peter. And so God spoke to him saying, "You need to go with them." So he makes his decision. And now here's some more information that you guys need to know. Just like it was forbidden for the Jews to eat certain foods, it was also forbidden for Jews to enter the home of someone that was not a Jew. So he knows that this is going to happen, and so he starts traveling, and there are even some people from Joppa that join him to go with the men of Cornelius. So they make their way and they travel back to Caesarea. And when they get there, they go to the house of Cornelius. And Cornelius is so excited to see him that he has even invited his relatives and has invited other friends to come to the house to hear what Peter had to say. So Cornelius meets him, and he talks about the vision that he had. And then Peter also shares the vision that he had. And Peter also is able to share that God sent his son to show God's love to the people. While Jesus was on this earth, he shared the good news. He healed sick people. He did so many amazing things. He died on a cross. He rose again. He even had dinner with them, with his disciples, after he had died. And he got to share all these things with them. And as Peter is speaking, God sent his Spirit to Cornelius and to the people that were there. And the people that traveled with Peter and Cornelius' men, the people from Joppa, they were amazed because God had sent his Spirit to these new believers, and they were not Jewish. So he's speaking, and after he shares all these amazing things, Peter baptizes Cornelius and his entire household. And it may have looked something like this, but I don't think it did.
Here we go.
We know it didn't look anything like that. But he was able to share what God wanted to speak to them. And Peter learned a lesson. He discovered this amazing thing. He had this light bulb moment as he's speaking, that there are so many things that he saw differently that God changed the way he saw it. And one big thing was that the news that he had to share wasn't just for the Jews. It was for every single person in the whole entire world. And that was a lot of people. And he was also reminded that knowing Jesus changes the way you see others. So there may be many times where there are going to be people that are different than us. They may be like different things. They may talk differently or speak a completely different language. They may also look differently than us, but none of those things say that we can't like them. God showed Peter this amazing lesson that we are supposed to show love to every single person, even if they have a different background. We know that Peter had a different background than Cornelius, but he was obedient to go over there. And through that, Cornelius and his entire household were able to put their faith in Jesus. And if you think about it, the reason why we know who Jesus is because someone else told us about him. And that's just so amazing that this lesson shows us that when we put our faith in Jesus, we are able to see others the way that Jesus does. And we are reminded, knowing Jesus changes the way you see others.